In a world where carbs are your enemy, you need one man to help you fight your battles. That man is Jimmy.
Combating nutrition disinformation and general bull. It's Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com.
Looking for whole food supplements for your ketogenic lifestyle? Then let me introduce you to Further Food. Go to furtherfood.com and you'll see that they source the highest quality ingredients on the planet. They have collagen peptides and my favorite, the gelatin powder to make those yummy gummies. And all of it is sourced from grass-fed, pasture-raised bovine collagen from Argentina, Paraguay, and Uruguay. This is really high-quality collagen and gelatin. There's no hormones or antibiotics. It's non-GMO, and it's the most tasteless and easiest to use on the market. If you're not using collagen and gelatin, you need to be adding this to your ketogenic lifestyle. Collagen will help you curb your carb cravings. Again, head on over to furtherfood.com, enter the coupon code Jimmy at checkout, and you'll get 20% off your order. Elevate your wellness. Further Food.
YouTube Live. We're here with another episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website for how all the fun begins. This is the most interesting, unique show that you will probably come across on the internet because we start off, we do a live video. In the mornings, we typically do Instagram Live. Here in the afternoon, we try to come on live on YouTube. I'll be incorporating Facebook Live here very soon as well. But we start off doing a live video. I'm literally at Living Low Carb Man all over the internet. That's LIVINLOWCARBMAN. So here on YouTube, youtube.com/Living Low Carb Man. Instagram, I'm at Living Low Carb Man. Over on Facebook, youtube.com/Living Low Carb Man. So look up the Living Low Carb Man. You'll find the show when I go live. If you missed the live, you can see it on replay here on YouTube very easily. As soon as it's over, it's available on replay. It's the beauty of going live on YouTube. We do have past episodes up on YouTube as well. So if you've ever missed any of the past episodes, definitely type in a keyword search Jimmy Rants. You will find the show and you can access, I think we have almost 280 episodes of this show on YouTube. So go check it out. Finally, the best of the best moments of this year's show are in podcast form. It's the Jimmy Rants podcast over on Apple Podcast. It's also on Stitcher for all my Android people. We love you, man. I'm an Apple guy, but we got you covered if you're Android. JimmyRants.com is the link to how you can access all of these ways to hear the show. Today's Jimmy Rants is another one of those studies. And when I say studies in that tone, you know it's probably not good. So lately I've been sharing some interesting good studies about keto, but the problem is it's very hard to find good studies that are positive about keto. Most of the time, when you look at a ketogenic diet, the studies are not that good. And I've got another such one here today. And what I want to talk about here today is the ketogenic diet probably isn't that good for females if you're a mouse. You ready for this one, you guys? Headline: New study suggests the keto diet may not be ideal for women. Oh my gosh, if you're female, you should listen up. It's not ideal for you, apparently. This study was performed on mice. If you're a mouse and you're female and you're watching this, I apologize in advance. I do. I guess keto's not for you. Some researchers are suggesting that it has broader implications for the keto diet. Oh, please enlighten us, researchers. The very high-fat ketogenic diet is currently all the rage. A new study from the University of Iowa in Iowa City. It was presented at the ENDO 2019 conference in New Orleans. That's a big endocrinologist conference where they present new research that hasn't necessarily been published yet. And this is one of those research studies. It's one of the few to look at how keto may affect males and females differently. No, that is not what they looked at. They looked at how keto would impact a female mouse and a male mouse. They haven't looked at anything affecting human males and human females. Let's get that straight from the start. They're going to try, you guys, and they always do this in these animal-based model studies. They always try to say, well, because we saw it in Mighty Mouse, this is what's going to happen in humans. And you can't make that extrapolation. Try as they may, you simply cannot. Right off the bat, we need to emphasize the fact that it was performed on mice. Well, thank God you did that. Unfortunately, the headline said nothing about mice. New studies suggest the keto diet may not be ideal for women. That's what people read, and that's what sends them in a tizzy. And no thanks. I get a million of these kind of headlines all the time. Oh my gosh, I'm a female and I do keto. Is this going to hurt me? I get them all the time because of these kinds of stupid headlines. In fact, there are very few studies that are looking at the sex differences of the keto diet. I'm not really aware of any studies that are randomized control clinical trials that looked at males and looked at females doing exactly the same modality with keto and seeing what differences there are. Now, obviously, there's hormonal differences. Women have more estrogen. Men tend to have more testosterone, so it kind of impacts a lot of the hormonal responses that keto does. But in general, keto does some very good things for both genders. So this is kind of silly that they're trying to extrapolate this from mice. It's tough to conceptualize all the findings of this new research, but that's why the study may be an important early step into investigating this aspect of the diet. I'll give them this. If they're going to use this data to form a hypothesis that they want to try on humans, then I'm all for it. I think research that is looked at on mice, even that epidemiological research, which I so loathe, where they're just looking at data, not actually looking at people, if they use it as a way to form a hypothesis that they want to test on humans in a randomized control clinical way, then I'm all for it. The problem is you get headlines that come out like this that we're talking about here today. And if you're just joining us, a brand new research project is being presented. And the title of this study, or the headline about the study, new studies suggest the keto diet may not be ideal for women. But when you look at the actual study, they didn't look at women. They didn't look at female humans. They looked at mice. So if we're going to be clear, they probably should have said, new mouse study perhaps builds a hypothesis that the keto diet may not be ideal for women. Had they put it that way, it would have been more accurate. But they said, no, new studies suggest the keto diet may not be ideal for women. So they send everybody into a tizzy. And sadly, most people look at the headline and go, well, crap, I guess I need to stop keto now. And that's not at all what the study says. All right, let's keep reading. A ketogenic diet has the majority of calories, about 60 to 70%, coming from fat, with protein accounting for about a quarter of the calories and the rest from carbs. Going so low in carbs will prompt the liver to produce ketones for energy, which may have some neuroprotective effects. So, and they cited a study that talks about the neuroprotective effects. The effects of the ketogenic diet on behavior and cognition from Hallbrook et al. From July 2012. So kudos to them for at least acknowledging that. The best evidence is for helping to reduce seizures and epilepsy, but some shakier evidence has suggested it may be useful for preventing diabetes and fighting cancerous tumors. Yeah, we've got emerging evidence coming along with diabetes from Dr. Sarah Hallberg and her group in Indiana, the Virta Health Study. We saw some 1-year findings last year. We're about to find out here in a few months the 2-year findings of this major low-carb ketogenic diabetes trial that's going on. And as far as fighting cancerous tumors, I know Dr. Richard Feynman and Eugene Fine are currently looking at this as well. They're looking at it in vitro right now, so looking at tissues in a lab that they're then putting cancerous cells on and trying to see if acetoacetate, which is one of the ketone bodies, can produce or basically eradicate the cancer. So this is all being looked at, you guys. They called it shakier evidence. I would call it more emerging evidence that's still coming around. So there's a mouse. And so what did they measure? After weaning, male and female mice were split into keto and non-keto diets over a period of 15 weeks. The ketone body beta hydroxybutyrate was almost 4 times higher in the females than in the males. And the female mice on the ketogenic diet developed an impaired glucose tolerance relative to the control diet for the females. In contrast, fasting glucose levels were lower in males on the ketogenic diet. So what they're saying is the female mice developed insulin resistance. Impaired glucose tolerance means they ate food and the insulin didn't do its job to get blood sugar into line. And so they're saying that the insulin didn't respond in a normal way, so therefore that's a bad thing. And again, if you're just joining us, there's a new study, and the headline's all about new study suggests the keto diet may not be ideal for women. And what they did was they looked at mice, female mice, and so they're extrapolating because of these things that happen to the female mice eating keto, that this is what's going to happen to you. What they don't tell you about these mice studies, too, is the chow that they give them that's supposedly keto. There's some suspect ingredients. It didn't say here in this story exactly what they fed them, but generally it's some kind of a concoction that's very gloppy. It's got fillers and all kinds of things in it. So I would want to know a little better about the quality of the chow that they fed them. That was supposedly keto, but the fact that they had higher levels of beta hydroxybutyrate probably is a sign that they did get ample amounts of fat. I don't know what the protein content would have been, and of course the carbohydrate. They just said that it would be typically lower in carb, and what they say, a quarter of the calories coming from protein and the rest fat. The ketone body beta hydroxybutyrate, 4 times higher, and yet the female mice developed impaired glucose tolerance. Okay. So now that they have this result in mice, it could be said that this is a hypothesis. All right, we saw this happen in mice. We saw the women had 4 times higher beta hydroxybutyrate levels in their blood of the ketone in the blood, and yet they had an impaired blood glucose as compared to the control group of females, as well as the fasting glucose on the males on the ketogenic diet. So now, if you want to take that conclusion and then say, okay, let's get some humans. Let's start with a small human study. Let's get 10 males. Let's get 10 females. And let's put a modicum of those males on a ketogenic diet and then one on a control. And then another modicum of females on a ketogenic diet and the rest of them the control. And then let's test this in a lab. That's how you do it. This study means absolutely nothing. Nothing to human females. And yet, you read that headline, new study suggests the keto diet may not be ideal for women. That is not what this study said. It said it may not be ideal for mice women. After the 15 weeks, the female mice had no changes in their weight, along with the impaired blood sugar levels. So the impaired blood sugar probably impacted their ability to lose weight, while the males did decrease their body weight and they had stable blood sugar. So all this is doing too, you guys, is there will be females that will read this story and they'll be like, see, there are male and female differences. Males, it's so easy. They go low carb and they drop 1,000 pounds. I go really, really strict low carb and I can't lose a pound and my blood sugar's all wonky. They'll use this as confirmation of what they already believe about keto, and it will do nothing but discourage those people. That makes me sad, because I know a lot of women in my life who are friends of mine in the keto space, and they have done phenomenally well eating a well-formulated ketogenic diet. But this will discourage new people. Let's keep reading. The researchers also removed the ovaries of some of the female mice in an effort to find out if estrogen was playing a role, which resulted in those mice experiencing more weight and fat loss. The study's lead researcher concluded that this may mean if you are a postmenopausal woman, you could have better weight loss outcomes on a ketogenic diet than younger women. So again, they have another hypothesis, you guys, that as estrogen goes in women, so goes their ability or inability to lose stored body fat. And their conclusion is postmenopausal women would have a better job at losing weight. Real world researchers, in the real world, some of the hardest people to try to get weight loss to happen in is postmenopausal women. What are they talking about? Postmenopausal women will have a better job at losing weight on keto than younger women. That makes no sense at all, but that's what they're saying. But it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows for the male mice either. When they compared the two groups on the keto diet, researchers found the males' livers had more pronounced signs of fibrosis and fatty storage than those of the female mice. Now, again, that doesn't make any sense at all either, because we know fatty liver does not come from eating fat in the diet. This is a common misperception. Because there's fat in the liver, people assume, oh, well, the fat got there because you ate fat. But fatty liver happens as a direct result of carbohydrate consumption. So they're making this claim, fatty storage in the liver compared to the female mice. There was some other mechanism going on there that had nothing to do with the high-fat ketogenic diet. So what does this mean? This was a small study on mice. No kidding. That's why I'm calling you out on this, that this has no human extrapolation. It bears emphasizing that this does not mean the keto diet is conclusively bad for anybody. So if that's true, why allow a headline like this? New study suggests keto diet may not be ideal for women. Why allow those kind of headlines? That's what's so frustrating, you guys, being in this nutritional health space. All these people in the layperson world gets exposed to these kinds of headlines. We rely on this medical journalism to explain to us what this research means. And all they do is sensationalize the very minuscule results on mice and then extrapolate it to human application when it does no such thing. And this is what's incredibly frustrating, is people will cite this kind of research, and I get it every day. Well, what do you think about this study? And it's another mouse study. Or what do you think about this study? And it's everything about epidemiological study, observational research, not actually looking at human beings. It's frustrating. Other research has found it improves fatty liver disease in humans. So they acknowledge that. They cite a study from 2007 from Tendler et al., the effects of low carbohydrate ketogenic diet on non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, a pilot study. So we have seen some really good studies that show a ketogenic diet helps with fatty liver. So again, it doesn't make any sense. Other studies have found positive results for fat loss among men and women, though there is indeed some evidence to suggest that women's fertility hormones can be negatively impacted by low-carb diets. So they cite Doshti et al. In 2004 and McGrice in 2017 for the fertility thing. I've heard nothing of the sort regarding fertility and keto. In fact, there is a great fertility doctor, reproductive endocrinologist. His name, Dr. Michael Fox, not Michael J. Fox, not that guy. But Dr. Fox is doing great work with his patients, and almost invariably, his patients that come in and they're having trouble getting pregnant, they typically have PCOS, which is a sign of insulin resistance, polycystic ovarian syndrome. and he puts them on a ketogenic diet. The insulin resistance heals up, and they're able to get pregnant. So it's fascinating that they would cite two studies that run counter to what clinicians are actually finding. The simple fact is that more research is needed. See, they always throw that at the end. I wouldn't say more research is needed. I think better research is needed, because this kind of science helps nobody. This is the kind of science that frustrates people because it really doesn't help anybody. It really, with this headline today, it did nothing to add to the conversation about the effect of nutrition on men, women, anybody. All it did was show you this is what happens to mice with some arbitrary keto-like-ish diet that they fed them. Particularly when comparing how males and females tolerate keto. If nothing else, this is the funniest part of this whole article. If nothing else, the study confirms the importance of speaking with a physician, keeping an eye on your blood work when considering such a radical change to your diet or weight loss regimen. Why is keto considered radical? Keto to me is the most rational way of eating you'll ever eat, because you eat the diet and then you're not hungry for hours upon hours upon hours. Your body responds very positively to eating keto. So if it was so radical, why does your body calm down? Why are you able to get blood markers that all come into line with what would be considered healthy? It's fascinating to me the way that they try to describe keto, when to me, keto is probably the most sane diet someone could probably go on, but they're not acknowledging that. So guys, the bottom line in this Jimmy Rants is we're going to see studies that come out and make bold headlines about how bad keto is for women, maybe. When in actuality, it didn't look at that at all. It looked at female mice and male mice, and they drew observations from these mice, and all that should have done was serve as a hypothesis of, okay, those are things that we need to test in male and female humans, and let's see what happens to them in a randomized controlled clinical trial in a metabolic ward. Until that happens, you guys, this has no human application. All right, let's see what you guys have to say. Welcome in, welcome in. Thanks for being here on Jimmy Rants on YouTube Live. What's up, Deneen? Hello, Healing Montana Nana. Hello, Alberto. Hello, Kim Call, Dana. Lots of my peoples are here today. Chef B, women need good carbs up 1 week a month during MS. That's debatable. That really hasn't been vetted out in the research either. I do know that a lot of women do get some benefit from doing that, B. But like my study I mentioned yesterday on Jimmy Rants, that may not be a good idea for some women, especially the ones that have insulin resistance. Val says most people only read the headline, not the articles. Unfortunately, last time I checked, I'm not a mouse. Exactly. I know, I'm Mighty Mouse. Here I come to save the day. I am so dating myself. Hey, Deb, what's up? What's up? Alberto, can it be that they have to wait until the beta-hydroxybutyrate is depleted before the cell starts accepting glucose? Great question, Alberto. I don't know. But again, that would be something that they could test on humans to find out. Val says more studies needed. Exactly. And again, not just more studies, better studies. It's good to use mouse models to build a hypothesis, but once you have a hypothesis, don't let that be the be-all, end-all. And see, remember, you guys, this was presented at this ENDO 2019 conference in New Orleans this week. So this is new research, but it hasn't been published yet. It hasn't gone through the peer review process. And I would hope some of those questions would be asked. Okay, let's talk about this, but then let's use it as a way to build a hypothesis for testing in humans, rather than saying that this is the be-all, end-all conclusion that we're looking at. Hello, Paleo Barbie. Dana says, I wonder what the mouse's preferred diet actually is. I don't know. I know that they have, well, there's different kinds of mice. I remember talking to some researchers before that there's this mouse called a knockout mouse, and the knockout mouse is very apt to develop heart disease. So it's so funny because they'll use knockout mice in studies looking at saturated fat. And then when they get heart disease, they say, see, saturated fat leads to heart disease, when the mouse has a predetermination to develop heart disease. It's just manipulation by researchers that know better, but then they're trying to get a splash out there. See, we've been trying to tell you all that butter and all that coconut oil and all that red meat that you eat is going to give you heart disease, when they use mice who have a propensity for heart disease. So it doesn't really help you a whole lot. And again, it's not human extrapolation anyway, so it doesn't really conclude anything about humans. I hope if you get nothing else out of hearing me talk on Jimmy Rants about studies, I hope you know this. Unless it's a randomized, controlled clinical trial in a metabolic ward of human beings looking at some modality, the study does not have application to humans. It just doesn't. This study here, it tells you what happens to mice. Great. Form the hypothesis, test it on humans. Until that happens, and until you do that study, and until you publish that study, do not tell me that the ketogenic diet may or may not be good for women. You don't know that yet. Fructose does not count as calories, and those results are the same we would have if we eat keto with alternate sugar made with fructose only, says Alberto. Hannah says, I need to read that article because I think I read that article, excuse me, the other day. Keto, 2.5 years. I do extended fast, 80 pounds down, that has stayed off, no more hypertension or menstruation, painful menstruation, cravings, energy, or hormone regulation. Hannah, congratulations. That's really, really awesome. And you're a female. What? You didn't have impaired glucose? That's what they said in this study. Mrs. Mighty Mouse got impaired glucose from eating keto, despite having 4 times the beta hydroxybutyrate levels as the males. Now, here's the other thing they didn't tell you about this. They said the ketone beta hydroxybutyrate was almost 4 times higher in females than in males. Here is what they're not telling you. It's very low levels of beta hydroxybutyrate in the male. 4 times higher is really still not that high. Gail says all these stupid studies are clogging my arteries and raising my blood pressure. Well, the problem is, Gail, people see these studies and, especially your family who knows you do keto, and then they come to you with a study headline like this. What do you say to this? You're a female. This is harming you, they say. Oh my gosh. And so you need to know the facts about this. It's one reason I've put so much time in Jimmy Rants lately going over some of these studies, because people are being fooled. Stephanie says menopause symptoms have lessened a lot for me over the last few months. And that's a pretty typical response that I hear from females that try a ketogenic diet. So they can say all they want about the mice and the female mice and how it was different than the male mice. But at the end of the day, there's really not that many differences between males and females with keto. Nuanced differences, if anything, again, because women primarily have changes in estrogen, men have changes in testosterone. That's the major kind of difference, but the diet helps control insulin in both. It helps to lower inflammation in both. It helps to improve blood sugar levels in both. So many benefits that cross over gender lines that it really doesn't make a difference whether you're male or female if you eat keto. Loretta said, I caught you live. Couldn't earlier since I was driving. So I'm glad you're here. Thanks for being here, Loretta. So guys, the bottom line in this Jimmy Rants is you're going to see a lot of studies that come out. Studies, as I like to put in quotation marks, that will make claims like this one here today, that the keto diet may not be ideal for women. And you have to know, and now you know, that unless you're a female mouse, you don't really need to worry about this particular study. Let's demand better research. Let's demand the controlled trials, randomized, controlled clinical trials. They're called RCTs in the research world. And without RCTs, those are the gold standard when it comes to research and application to humans. Show me an RCT that says these exact same things that they concluded in this mouse study, and then we'll have a discussion about it, about what happened. But until that happens, this is not anything that any human, female, male, anybody needs to be worrying about. Gail says, I appreciate your rants. I've learned so much about them from you. That's why my blood continues to boil. I'm not buying into all the negative studies. And Gail, congratulations, because most people, they do. It's one reason that I put these up on YouTube is I want people to find this when they start getting worried, and I want them to learn and to understand these things are a big bamboozlement, as I like to say, trying to fool people that are just lay people into making these bigger than they really are. In Keto Clarity, my book Keto Clarity, in the back of it, we have a whole section in there, and my co-author on that book, Dr. Eric Westman, who is a researcher, he helped me develop that section back there about how to read research. This is so important, you guys. If you know how to read research, then you don't get real upset when some of this nonsense comes. Alberto says, I'm going to chop newspaper for my bed tonight. All right, guys, that's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. Here's how the fun begins. We start off over on JimmyRants.com, and once you're there, you actually can see that we go live a couple times a day generally. So once in the morning, typically in the mornings, I've been doing Instagram Live. I will be cycling in Facebook Lives very soon. Typically in the afternoon, I try to get here on YouTube Live for all my YouTubers. I really appreciate you guys out there. A lot of you were watching the replays from Instagram for so long, and now I'm giving you the treat of having this live here on YouTube. So go follow me, you guys. I'm at Living Low Carb Man, literally everywhere online. Facebook.com/Living Low Carb Man, Instagram.com/Living Low Carb Man, and of course here on YouTube.com/Living Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. You can watch the replay and all the past episodes on YouTube over on my page. You could type in a keyword Jimmy Rants either on YouTube or on Google. You will find the show. Finally, we have the best of the best moments of this here show in podcast form. We have two kinds of podcasts for you to do, either on Apple Podcasts for all you Apple fans, or on Stitcher for all of my Android people out there. And so, again, you guys, we have links to all of this at jimmyrants.com.